flags, the banners that you can take with you. We have several of these. So when you do travel and you go to a Rotary Club, be sure and grab one of these beforehand. Let Karen or Lel know. Take it with you. You can do a exchange at the podium. And thanks to Natalie and I think Jay Cranford and others for helping make sure these are really cool, updated, and I think they're pretty awesome. So appreciate you taking advantage of that opportunity. It's a really cool one to do. Next, Pamela Smith will introduce our guests. Angela Shirey, our news producer, will provide our news update, and Molly McNulty will introduce and welcome our newest member to Club 99. Pam?
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. Good afternoon. I'm so excited to be up here to celebrate with my fellow Rotarians. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest today. And as I call your name, if you will please stand along with the Rotarian who has invited you. And we ask that you all please hold your applause until we have announced all of our guests. Christian Cole, guest of Don Cole. Angela Creamers, guest of Susan DePro. Dale Clancy, also guest of, Summer DePro. Dale Clancy, also guest of Summer DePro. And we have several members of the AmeriCorps NCCC visiting with us today. They are guests of Kelly Fleming, who is with Habitat for Humanity. They are here doing great work, and we certainly applaud you, and we will do so, especially after we have completed the announcements. Sherry Jones, guest of Sarah Riffle. Shannon Newton, guest of Chris Bond. Maddie Schmidt, also guest of Chris Bond. Lance Turner, another guest of Chris Bond. He's setting the bar really high today. Mr. Kevin Williams, guest of Steve Williams. And Mr. Davis Kinley, guest of Denver Peacock. Let's give all of our guests a rousing round of applause, and especially our AmeriCorps guests who are doing great work here in the city. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Great to see everyone this afternoon. In today's collection of Rotarians in the News, congratulations once again to past President Jeff Hildebrand, a 17-year veteran, as Broyles Award Chairman on another successful event this past week. Many of us were thrilled to join you for that ceremony, so thank you very much. It's been a minute, but we didn't want to overlook the incredible news of Chancellor Summer DeProw's promotion as leader of U of A Pulaski Tech. Congratulations, Summer. Or should we say, Madam Chancellor? Shannon Hurd and fellow Junior League officers landed the December cover of Little Rock Soiree magazine. I'm not sure how many of you all saw that, but the December, there's Shannon and the crew. The December issue details the Junior League's 100-year legacy of impact in Little Rock, and of course, the annual Holiday House event. Rotarian Mandy Richardson leads Soiree magazine. Victoria Ramirez was profiled in Rachel O'Neill's high-profile section of the Arkansas Democrat Sunday, highlighting the upcoming reopening of the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts. Take note. On April 22nd, 2023, Ramirez, Board Member Mike Marquez, and Development Officer Ross Oyong will provide patrons and visitors to the patrons and visitors to the completely new, awe-inspiring space. Thank you to all who have supported this work and to the AMFA team for this dedicated project in revamping Arkansas's treasure. Rabbi Yosef Kramer is inviting Club 99 members to the annual lighting of the Grand Menorah this Sunday, December 18th at 5 o'clock at the corner of Chenal and Bowman. Honorary Rotarian Governor Asa Hutchison will deliver a special Hanukkah message. So if you have time, please feel free to take up that welcome invitation. And congratulations are in order to Club 99ers Jay Cheshire, outgoing chairman Jim Cargill, and incoming chairman Rajesh Chikani, excuse me if I mispronounced your name, for their efforts in leading our Little Rock Regional Chamber in last week's annual meeting. We're proud to see so many Club 99ers leading throughout our community. Thank you so much for all that you do. We always remember service above self. And lastly, in an ongoing effort to highlight Rotarian significant accomplishments, please share your notable accomplishments, celebrations, and milestones with your news team so that we can acknowledge and celebrate you publicly. And that's all the news I think you need to know. Thank you.
Hello, I am delighted today to introduce our newest new member, Brittany Webb, and her sponsor, Bobby McDaniel. A native of Jonesboro and a graduate of Hendrix College, Brittany is an associate attorney at McDaniel Wolf PLLC. Brittany attended law school at American University in Washington, D.C. While in law school, she was a staffer for the ABA-sponsored Administrative Law Review, the senior articles editor for the American University Legislation and Policy Brief, and vice president of the American University's nationally ranked Mock Trial Honor Society. Brittany received several accolades in law school, including her being awarded for her trial and oral advocacy skills and being named a member of the Order of Barristers. After graduating cum laude, she clerked at the Superior Court for the District of Columbia, assisting senior judges on the Civil Division Emergency Calendar. Brittany worked for a DC law firm specializing in administrative law, federal Indian law, compliance, and gaming. Now, back in her home state of Arkansas, her practice at McDaniel Wolf focuses on commercial litigation, business torts, breach of contract, and government relations. While she's not at work, Brittany coaches trial advocacy teams, most recently at the University of Georgia Law School and at her alma mater, Hendrix College. Chief U.S. District Judge Price Marshall calls Brittany impressive, and I couldn't agree more. I'm thrilled Brittany has chosen to join Club 99, and I'm so very thankful to her sponsor, Bobby, for making today possible as well. Please help me give Brittany a warm Rotary welcome.
Thank you, Pam, Angela, and Molly. Our new member streak still alive at 20 weeks. So congrats to Brittany for being a part of Club 99. We're glad you're here. But here's the deal. Our streak may end at 20. We have several in the queue for January, but we don't have anyone yet committed to the 20th, which is next week. So if you know of anyone that's wanting to join, or you have a spouse that wants to join, please let us know this as soon as you can this week. We'd love to get you introduced by next Tuesday while Congressman French Hill is here. But anyway, we appreciate all of you for all that you're doing, Molly, and so many of you. We've had an incredible membership drive this year so far. It's been unbelievable. I'm very, very grateful to all of you, even if we don't make it through the first 6 months, but we're close. All right. Special orientation meeting will be after the meeting today here in the Clinton Center. A few of you, I think, are signed up for that. An opportunity to get some of the newer members plugged in as quickly as possible. So please do stick around after the meeting. If you're a new member and haven't gone through the orientation meeting, you're welcome to do that, Brittany, if you like. No pressure. Next week, as I said, past president and you as Congressman French Hill will help us kick off a special holiday program on the proposed VA Fisher House. It's going to be a new veterans home in Arkansas. A lot of other states already have one, but to my knowledge, we do not yet in Arkansas. Come early for some eggnog and cider too, as Terry Rasco will perform some of your favorite holiday tunes on the piano. So please make an effort to join us as early as 11:30 and celebrate the holidays with us. And then we'll hear from our congressman and past president. We're still working on the details of this, so it may not happen, but just so you know, if you do look for this, if you're interested in the newsletter, but we're hoping that we can do a gift drive for veterans. And if we're able to do that, we'll let you know through the newsletter. But if we are, we'd ask you to bring a gift for a veteran over the holidays. As you know, many of our veterans, several are homeless and others are lonely. And so we want to make sure we have an opportunity to connect with them as well. And so it'll be a great time to do that when we talk about and celebrate our veterans next Tuesday. Speaking of the holidays, special thanks to all of you that helped out with the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign. I've seen some amazing fun photos. It sure looked like you had a lot of fun. And so be sure to check out the newsletter. We'll have a few of those published. And if you did get a photo, send it to either me or Karen or Lel, and we'll make sure we get it plugged in on Thursday. But anyway, thanks to all of you for serving and welcoming those into the holidays with a little something extra. Reminder, if you're interested in serving in the literacy lab or with our Dunbar mentoring project, those are both going to be kicking off in January. Several of you have expressed interest. Not as many have said they're going to commit to it. And so, as you know, from our last quarterly panel series, mentoring is incredibly important if we're going to make an impact on the young people in our community. And so please consider your ability and willingness to share and help out. We could certainly use your support and help. Talk to Mitch Bettis or Natalie Gadati about that if you're interested in the literacy lab, or Dan Parker if you want to plug in with the Dunbar mentoring project. We really hope you can help us out. We think it'll be amazing. And there's no really more significant thing that we could probably do than helping out our young people here in our community. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the Illuminate the Rock project. You may recall during my State of the Club remarks in July, I announced the Illuminate the Rock theme and vision for our club to take on a really cool initiative to light the Veterans Memorial Bridge. What many of you know is the Broadway Bridge, arguably the most beautiful bridge in the natural state. I said I would love for Club 99 to lead the effort as a gift to our community during our region's tricentennial year, to kick off the process of lighting this beautiful bridge with its amazing arches. So today I'd like to provide a quick update on the project. We've been working with our friends in Milwaukee. You may recall our speaker on my launch date was Michael Halstad. His team has done something comparable in Milwaukee with the Light the Home project. And they've been working with us on getting our plans together, timeline and renderings and so forth. Many of those items are still in the planning stages, but I'd like to show you a sneak peek of the latest renderings today. And we'll have an announcement next week as well about some of the folks who are going to be helping with this. I'm going to take advantage of the podium, at least get you 2 weeks in a row on this. But here we go with a few of the renderings. So this is actual bridge, of course. This is the first concept, would be just to light the outer area on both sides. You can see here the different types of lights here that you could put on the outside of the structural area. And there's going to be a second concept where we'll do the arches, or excuse me, the crosses. This is one of the concepts if you did red, white, and blue. And so remember, they don't have to be static. They can be, but if we design them with the right coating, you can do all kinds of amazing lights and designs and so forth. Here's another concept if it were just red. Imagine if the Razorbacks are in town. Here's a sunset one that's really nice. And then here's one if it's just white. I know a lot of folks just would like to see it white at night. And so that's a concept for a lot of the nights may just be white. And here's the second concept. This is bringing in the same lights for the exterior on both sides. And then here, this is a different kind of a grazing. So you can see the grazing of these diamonds. And then we'd try to put a few here. If we can get enough money, we'll put a few. So when you're actually driving across on either side, you'll actually be welcomed into the bridge with lights as you're going underneath the bridge. So that way you don't just see it if you're on a boat or, further away, but you can actually experience the bridge lighting as you're actually either walking, or jogging, riding a bike, or driving a car through. And then those same concepts are brought over as well. You can kind of see the grazing there a little bit. If you're having trouble with this screen, these TV screens are usually a little bit crisper. And then here again with Arkansas red, you can kind of see that white grazing underneath. Do you see right there, see the little white there? You can do different lights on the front, and so you see it when you're coming underneath it. So that's the rendering that we've come up with. Signify is helping us with the rendering. We worked the group out of Morrilton, Dean Kuntz, and his group have been working with Signify and doing these light bridges all across the country. So this is kind of the general concept that we're looking at for what we'd like to do. So what do you think about that? You guys like that, huh? Pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of amazing stuff we can do. Like I said, those were just static renderings. Imagine with the lights moving around to the beat of your favorite song while driving or riding a bike across the bridge, listen to the radio that's tuned into the sound of the lights. You could be hanging out in a boat in the Arkansas River. You could be hanging out with Lisa and Jim and watching it from the boat dock. And but there's all kinds of stuff to do. Imagine having fireworks and how we could kind of really embrace the bridge with fireworks shows. I mean, there's just many amazing things we could do to really invigorate our downtown and get people more excited about embracing our waterfront. But in any event, it's my hope a lit Veterans Memorial Bridge will be a permanent reminder of our community service and the light we're already shining on our community. We talked about the need to bring our region together, to raise awareness of what a Rotary Club can do for a community, what Club 99 already does for our community. And as we talk about the importance of bringing light to our children through the gift of literacy and mentoring, as we shine the light on the important work our police and firefighters do, we give scholarships to deserving college students, we're shining a light. We're illuminating the rock and we're helping our community. But here's the thing, it's going to start with all of us and other like-minded members of our community. So as you finalize your plans, think about this for year-end giving. Please consider an initial gift to our Club 99 Foundation earmarked for the Illuminate the Rock project. No amount is too small. We're going to need a significant gift or two to get there, but that shouldn't deter us. And as we begin to make bigger asks within our community, please consider how you can help us open doors. We know a lot of you have great relationships, and we'd love for you to talk to us if you're interested in helping us with that. We need your help and we need your connections, but I believe together we can join together to illuminate the rock. So thank you for all you do for Rotary in our community. I really appreciate it. All right, so now to the story. As many of you know by now, during a La Petite Roche Tricentennial, I will spend my year as president telling unique stories about our region's past 300 years. With today's program all about our homegrown transportation industry, I'd like to share with you the story of two of Arkansas's first transportation entities. Many of you may know this. I bet most of you don't. The Clymer Motor Corporation and Command Air. Ring a bell? Henry Ford changed the world with his reasonably priced Model Ts, and by the mid-1920s, there were some 40,000 Ford cars and trucks registered in Arkansas. 1920s. For the Arkansas driver, it was a marvel of convenience. That is, if you had a decent road to drive on. Arkansas, like many other states at the time, had a road system that lagged far behind the demand for the Model T, and which struggled to handle the rugged back roads of Arkansas. Thanks to our guest Shannon Newton and all the transportation folks in the community for helping us have really good roads again. Thank you, Shannon. But to handle the sometimes primitive Arkansas roads, three entrepreneurs, William Drake, Clarence Rolfe, and Davis Hobson, created the Clymer Motor Corporation, Arkansas's only car and truck manufacturer. The business was capitalized at $1 million and opened its factory in 1919 at a 20-acre site on East 17th Street in Little Rock. It was a perfect location with both the Missouri Pacific and Rock Island rail lines nearby. making for easy parts and materials delivery. In production at the plant, get this, peaked at 5 vehicles per day. The Climber was built to be tough. You might even say Ford tough. To demonstrate its toughness, a climber drove up the steps of the state capitol building in 1920. An earlier test began at the Capitol and eventually drove 20,000 miles over some of the South's worst roads, virtually nonstop. The most popular model was the Climber 4, a 4-cylinder, 40 horsepower, 5-passenger touring car with a collapsible roof. It came in a number of color combinations and featured leather seats. Despite the merits of the durable Climber, it was destined for failure. It sold for just over $2,000, and that was at a time when you could buy a new Model T for just under $300. Arkansas was a poor state, and while the ideal had merit, the car couldn't gain the needed market share. The venture was undercapitalized as well, and the manufacturing plagued by a shortage of parts and skilled labor. After a number of changes in management and ownership, Climber Motor Corporation closed its doors for good in 1924. Only 2 exist today, both beautifully restored at the Museum of Automobiles on Petit Jean Mountain. But then the tradition of aircraft manufacturing in Little Rock began at that same 17th Street plant in 1926, purchased by the Arkansas Aircraft Corporation and later reorganized as Command Air. The large open automobile manufacturing plant was perfect for aircraft construction, and the 20-acre site was large enough to build 2 1,800-foot runways, later known locally as Command Air Field, next to what is now Clinton National Airport. Robert Snowden headed up the firm, and his chief designer, Albert Vomek, built a test plane named the Little Rocket. That plane won the prestigious 5,400-mile Cirrus International Air Derby in 1930, recording a top speed of 215 miles an hour and winning the grand prize of $15,000, a hefty sum during the Great Depression. But alas, this company fell victim to the Great Depression and ceased operations in 1931. A handful still exist today in museums and private collections, and a few of them I've been told actually still fly. You can check out the building. It's named on the National Register of Historic Places at 1823 East 17th Street. It's still intact to this day. And just last week at the Little Rock Chamber meeting, I heard Club 99ers Jay Cheshire and Jim Cargill and Rajesh Chokani talk of landing an automobile manufacturing plant by readying the Little Rock port next year for a mega site expansion. So let's hope their efforts will pay off in a major way for Central Arkansas and our state, and bringing back another manufacturer of automobiles and trucks. And that's our Illuminating the Rock story for this week. And now, Chris Bond, would you come introduce our program?
All right, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. Today's moderator, will start with him, as Lance Turner, the editor of Arkansas Business. Lance joined Arkansas Business in May of 1999 and previously served as online editor of Arkansas Business from 2000 to 2021. He appears regularly on KTHV 11 as a frequent panelist and guest host of Arkansas Week on PBS. Lance and I have been classmates, competitors, colleagues, and friends since the mid-1990s at Arkansas State University. Even as a college student, Lance was detail-oriented. He was curious, fair-minded, and good under pressure. All the attributes you would expect from the leader of the state's top news reporting organization. Join me in welcoming Lance to the stage. He's already here. What the heck? Today, Lance will moderate a conversation with Maverick Transportation founder and chairman Steve Williams. As the name of his company would suggest, Steve has never been afraid to go against the grain and is happy to speak his mind. When I made my first major career transition from covering college athletics to trucking and transportation, Steve was one of the people who made that transition as smooth as possible. The other person responsible for that is here today, Shannon Newton with the Arkansas Trucking Association. Steve was so invested in the well-being and image of the industry. He was happy to take my phone calls, emails, repeated visits to Maverick headquarters just to bring me up to speed on the industry. I'm happy to know he's still taking my calls a decade later. Steve is past president of both the Arkansas Trucking Association and the American Trucking Association, a co-founder of the Trucking Alliance and head of one of the largest transportation companies in North America, just down the road in North Little Rock. Steve has served on the Transportation Research Board and for the National Academies of Science, the chairman of Americans for Safe and Efficient Transportation, chairman of the American Transportation Research Institute, and currently serves as chairman of the Alliance for Driver Safety and Security. You may notice themes there. As you will hear today, Steve has opinions, but they are rooted in research, decades of experience, and an unwavering commitment to making the industry better. So if you guys will help me welcome Steve to the stage.
All right, you did it. You made this. I took the direct route too, and I maybe should have done that, but the most efficient route from the table to the chair. Thanks, Chris, and thanks to Denver for having us today. We appreciate it, and we appreciate getting a chance to talk about transportation and logistics in a very interesting time, I think, for the industry. There's a lot happening, a lot been happening in the past year, a lot happening post-COVID that has really brought transportation and logistics to the forefront of probably most people's minds these days when they, just even retail customers who can't get their stuff on time, wondering about, why is this? Why does this work this way? All that stuff has really shined a light on the industry in a new way that I think is exciting for the industry. Lots of opportunities there, but a lot to learn about what's happening these days. First of all, though, I want you to kind of set the stage for you and your company, kind of tell us a little bit about your company and kind of where you sit in the firmament of trucking and transportation and logistics in that whole industry.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the warm introduction and getting me out of the rain. I love having the opportunity to do this because I do believe that, to your point, trucking has become a more visible industry post-COVID. We have done everything that we have been able to do through the years to make our presence made known in a good way. But it takes a real practical event like we experienced the consequences of what it would be like if there were no trucks or fewer trucks. I was with the administrator, FMCSA administrator last week, and the research getting ready for that meeting kind of was a prelude to this. And I'd like to share some of this because I'm very proud of it. I was not born in a truck, but I've never been very far from one. My dad, my grandfather were both owner operators pulling flatbeds, hauling steel out of St. Louis, and they were my heroes. So I've had a front row seat to the trucking industry from the mid-50s until now. That predates a lot of the interstates in this country. It predates a lot of experiences that we've all shared on those interstates as well. I think it's important to know, though, that my dad lost his last truck driving job because he had an unauthorized passenger in his truck really close to the Truman Library on Old Highway 40 east of Kansas City. And that was me. I was 9 years old, which was not uncommon for us to do. So my experience, when I say from the front row seat. I mean, literally the front row seat. Interestingly, that company that terminated him hired him to run a terminal for them in Granite City, Illinois, Madison, Illinois. So in 63, he built this large warehouse. So at the age of 10, I am loading and unloading trucks with overhead cranes and fork trucks, which was a prelude to a lot of what I did for a career the rest of my life. So it goes way back. It's an industry that I'm very proud of, but during deregulation in 1980, freight got to moving cheaper because of deregulation. Jimmy Carter signed the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, which in essence enabled people like me to sell my house on Walnut and take that $8,700 and start Maverick. Because prior to that, it would have cost millions. And in this case, it was a $350 filing fee and the stupidity to think that I could actually pull it off. So we moved to Texarkana, Arkansas in 1980 because we had no trucks. We supposedly had 10, but they were kind of ghost trucks. Hopefully the statute of limitations has run out on that. And in 82, we moved back to Little Rock, which was the original plan when we had 14. We bought our first company truck in 1987, and we ran a mixed fleet from 87 to 94, mixed fleet meaning owner operators and then company owned equipment. Kevin, my son, will attest to this. I am a control freak. I like things to look a certain way, whether it's fence posts that need to be weed eated or trucks that need to be clean, or you get the point. So we ran a company-owned fleet after that. We built our first office. I was preparing for some of these dates because they get a little confused when your hair gets like this. But in 94, when we built our corporate office out on the interstate, we had 300 trucks. And then 2009, when the economy was really soft, we had 1,300 trucks, but we had 300 trucks parked in the back because we had nothing for them to do. These were all new trucks, all just fine, but they were all parked in the back. We never missed a payment. We made it through it, and we've continued to grow. Today, we are probably the largest private carrier in Arkansas. We are the second largest privately owned flatbed company in the United States, second behind TMC out of Des Moines. And, but most notably, we're the nation's largest hauler, transporter of flat glass. All of this glass in this building, all the glass you will see around that was built after 2006, whether it's in Canada or in anywhere in the lower 48, chances are we hauled it from the float line to the fabricator where the windows were made. Freedom Tower, for example, the new Amazon building that's going up in DC, all of that glass we've hauled all over the country, getting it ready for the construction. So, but we built our company on facts. 10 years in, I realized that a small fish in a big pond was not going to survive when you had the idealistic ambitions of how this should look. And so I got involved in governmental relations, which got me involved in research because people were wanting me to lead because I was willing to be lippy, but I also wanted to be lipping off with facts. So therefore, my involvement in the Transportation Research Board and all that. I've traveled all over the world to see how other people are doing it. We're not the sharpest pencil in the drawer. We are not. I've spoken in Auckland, New Zealand. I've spoken in Anchorage, Toronto, all over Germany, Sweden, almost every state in the US, trying to convince people what the end game needed to look like and to learn from others, particularly overseas, Northern Europe in particular. With that being said, I could talk all day about this industry. I love it. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff going on that's good for you. It's good for your kids. It's good for your family. I'm very proud of what we've been able to do. And I'll turn the mic back over to you because I would love to be able to respond to any areas of interest that you might have.
Great. Well, yeah, well, let's talk first of all, just in thinking about the supply chain, which has been of intense interest lately, post-COVID. We've had supply chain backups, problems getting goods shipped and moved around the country. How would you describe the current state, like today, of the supply chain and how things are doing?
Well, in the midst of COVID, we also saw a tremendous resurgence of air freight. An awful lot of the supply chains changed a great deal over the last 5 years. I don't know what all the mixes are now specifically as it relates to intermodal and transportation.
I hadn't drunk it.
All right, thank you. You all didn't see him drink out of this, did you? Thank you. But no, there were tremendous disruptions. We, for example, out of our 1,600 trucks, we lost 150 drivers who chose to get off the road during that period, either because of their retirement, age for retirement or whatever. So there was a reduction in capacity across the system. Not everybody treated it as honorably as we did, but so there was an impact in actual numbers. But there's one thing, and it's actually on one of the things I want to leave you with for sure today, is that demographics of the workforce are changing so dramatically. And if we are unaware of it, we're missing the most obvious part of the problem. Total fertility rate, potential support ratio, particularly potential support ratio. In 1950, there were 14 people in the workforce between the ages of 15. In my case, it would have been 10, but between the ages of 15 and 65 for every person that's 65 years or older. So if you're at home retired, you had 14 people out there in the workforce working for you. Today, that number is 9. It's fallen from 14 to 9. By the year 2050, that number is going to be 4. So if you think you can't find a plumber or a truck driver or a professor or a doctor or a lawyer, there's a reason for it, but it's foundationally because of demographics. The world is changing dramatically. So that's impacting the supply chain and everything that supports the supply chain. And I think the supply chain is a very broad term. In my space, I'm heavy industrial. I'm predominantly a steel hauler. I'm hauling steel out of a steel mill that's going to a fabricator who's going to make a car or a tank or a I-beam for a high rise. We're usually one of the first people in and the first people out of downturns. And I have some statistics that I could share about that as well. But the supply chain has stabilized, I think. It certainly has from our perspective. And I think that Christmas should come off without a hitch, as long as you don't have real high expectations.
Well, in terms of then having to deal with these demographic changes, what does trucking and logistics need to do to prepare for this future where the workforce has changed that much?
You know, it's exciting to think there are 3 million Class 8 truck drivers in the US. A lot of those, because of that PSR that I was talking, which is driven by the total fertility rate. Let me touch on that just a second. It takes 2.1 children per birth mother in order for a population to sustain itself. The US is actually at 1.8. And if it were not for legal immigration, we would have been shrinking as a country over the last several years. Russia is losing over 1 million a year. Japan is using over 1 million a year and will cease to exist unless they change their immigration policies because of their total fertility rate, period. In the US, we're not going to have that same situation. What was the question?
Well, what does trucking and logistics need to do to deal with these workforce changes?
Okay, well, everybody always wants to talk about, well, you don't have to worry about it. You have autonomous trucks.
Right, yeah.
That's not the answer. Other people talk about lowering the bar on safety so that we can get more people in the, no, I've spent the last 25 years trying to run people out of the industry that don't deserve to be in the industry. I'm a believer that owning a truck line or driving a truck is a privilege. It's not an entitlement. And with privileges come additional responsibilities. In my case, I assure you at Maverick that our drivers are all drug and alcohol free. They're all properly trained and they are rested. How do I get there? Competitively has been the challenge over the last several years. So do we lower the bar so more people can crawl into our trucks and go up and down the highway within 3 feet of you? No, we raise the bar, pay them more money, more people come into the industry, and you have the professionals that you need to have going by out here close to you and your families. So the big part of it is invest in solutions that have long-term benefits. And that will be one of them because yes, intermodal will continue to grow. Thank goodness we have intermodal. Thank goodness JB Hunt had that brain epiphany because you think you have trouble moving freight now. Without intermodal, we'd be in a world of hurt. So it's high expectations. You as people, citizens of this country should have high expectations of this industry and we need to meet them. But that means that your prices should go up. We've given our drivers 2 or 3 pay raises, Kevin, this year alone. A starting driver for us will make $72,000 with absolutely no experience, and we'll teach them how to drive in year 1 with full benefits. Our average driver makes $81,000. We have drivers that make $125,000. Running legal, running good equipment, going home to their families, hopefully by Friday at 5 o'clock. So you had a hell of a deal since 1980. And Economics 101 was the only class in college that I really needed to attend. Because over the last 2 years, we've had pricing power that's enabled us to change the driving job for our people. And we're not planning on giving it back.
So how do we need to think about what transportation costs us as consumers and as business people who consume from transportation as well?
I was invited to an economics meeting, a council meeting at the White House a couple of years ago, and I got really frustrated with the debate. I said some things that maybe I shouldn't have said, such as raise my damn taxes, fix my roads, and leave me alone. And I said, you're not going to do that, but I will, meaning that if you will educate the American people of what this is going to look like if they do nothing, and then compare it to what it would look like if they do something, I think we would make an intelligent decision about what we needed to invest our money in.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, so I went out and made a movie called, the documentary is called Be Prepared to Stop. It's on YouTube. You please watch it. It was horribly painful to do and it'll only hurt you for an hour.
It's brief. It's brief.
It's brief. Yeah. It'll be over in no time.
Right.
But that bridge over there that was torn down is actually, there's a lot of footage in it. And I remember being quoted in the movie saying, if you knew what all these bridges look like that you're driving over today, you wouldn't drive over them now. And that's the truth. But anyway, that movie was not very successful and it did not open. I got to do hosted a big movie shoot underneath the Capitol and the US Capitol. And we did everything we knew to do, but it was a documentary. Therefore, I had no control over the message completely. So I would have been a better producer, but then it wouldn't have been a documentary.
So, okay, so let's 12:50. So let me go ahead and ask if anybody has a question at this point to go ahead and if you'd like to ask one, you can go right ahead. Yes, sir. I'll repeat the question. The importance of your office's location and in terms of how you can get to all the places you need to get with your trucks.
It is, we could be anywhere. We chose to be in Arkansas because that's where I moved here and met my wife, and she wouldn't let me leave. And we were married 46 years yesterday. Thank you. She may not feel the same way. No, site, we have for example, we have offices in Green Bay, Fort Smith. We have a huge warehouse in Fort Smith. We put 80 to 100 trucks a day, every day since 1991 in Fort Smith to the steel mill there. We haul pretty much everything out of there. Little Rock just happened to be home, quite frankly. And fortunately, we are on a corridor where our visibility gives us a recruiting presence with drivers that are on the road. They go by our place and they go, pretty nice looking place. But no, we, Laurinburg, North Carolina, Fort Smith, Green Bay, Wichita Falls, Texas, they're all in places for a reason, and it's mostly to work on trucks or to service a customer. Glass plants in particular are very needy. Interesting, like a glass plant's a float line, it runs continuously. It cannot be turned off. They run about 10 years, and when they turn them off, it gets real hard. You got a mess to clean up. So we have a lot of resources available at these big, there's 4 huge glass plants in the US. We haul it all over North America. But anyway.
Yes, sir. We'd like to hear some cool things.
Cool things. Yeah. And that's one of it's not, it's like a kid, you know, that, I mean, I was looking for a picture this morning to share with the administrator that I mentioned with. Since I was 2 years old, I've been playing with trucks, literally. And I still have all the same trucks that I was playing with when I was 2. That's not really an interesting story, but kind of weird, actually. Service intervals for our trucks. How often do you change the oil on your car? Ours is 70,000 miles. Do you know how far a truck going 65 miles an hour, how far it travels in 1 second? 95 feet. So that's why automatic braking systems and all those safety technologies are so important. So when 1/4 of an inch matters, 95 feet sure does matter, right? Collision avoidance, lane departure, roll stability control. We have all of this. We beta tested and helped develop a lot of it. We're taking the mirrors off of our trucks. NHTSA requires us to have 55 square inches of mirror on both sides of our trucks. You will not see those on Maverick trucks before long because we've installed cameras called Mirror Eye that gives us a 360-degree view around that truck.
And you've gotten a waiver to do that.
We got a federal exemption to do that. There are so many things that are so cool and relates to the technology. Our trucks, after they get to 20 miles an hour, they drop 6 inches closer to the ground for aerodynamics. They do that on their own. I could go on and on and on about the technology. The engine technology is remarkable. We've done so much. The air going into one of our trucks in Houston or Los Angeles is dirtier than the air going out and has been for years, with the exception of CO2. Let me briefly just touch, I know we're short on time. Autonomous trucks will come, but you're not going to see them around here. You may see them out on Interstate 40 between Albuquerque and Amarillo, perhaps. Those are technology level 6. I think we need to get to technology level 3, which means we're going to leverage safety technology like we have and more, but there's going to be a human being in that truck. In our case, in flatbed in particular, our jobs are safe because we got to make sure that coil or that load of lumber stays tight and well tarped. So our deal is a little different. But autonomous vehicles are a part of the solution, but they're going to be a minute portion. Truck platooning, that's when a truck follows another truck. Maybe the other one's got a driver in it and there's 3 or 4 other trucks following it with nobody in them. That's a possibility, and that'll happen in parts of the world. I experienced that in 2006 in Stuttgart, Germany, driving around roundabouts. The truck behind me had a driver in it, I thought, but it was a blow-up doll. We are light years away from what many people are doing, and I'll just zip it at this. Hydrogen is the fuel source for over-the-road trucks of the future. In 2023, Daimler Freightliner, who we run, is committed to having a truck in the market that will compete with a diesel truck as an electric truck on a price point. We will shut down Little Rock if we try to charge 12 of our trucks out here at one time. Electric is not the solution. An electric platform on the truck is a solution, but it's going to be fueled by hydrogen fuel cell or hydrogen fuel. So there's going to be, Daimler is committed in 2028 to have a hydrogen fuel vehicle on the road at a price point that is comparable to diesel by the year 2028. And when Daimler says they're going to do something, you can count on it happening. They're very close friends. And I could go way off in the weeds on that one, but I can tell you that, look this up, write this down, h2.live, h2.live. Look it up. That's how you're going to be moving freight in this country someday. And with the exhaust being water. It's being done today in Germany. Volvo and Freightliner have joined together and they've built a network in Northern Europe, which you can look at h2.live, and you will see how they're moving their freight with no emissions. And we're still wondering when they're going to get the bridge fixed.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Y'all stay close. Thank you, Chris, LT, and Steve. That's amazing. Appreciate your time, your leadership, not only in Arkansas, but globally, and what you're doing and all the innovative things that Maverick's doing. It's a pretty amazing treasure we have here in Central Arkansas. Really appreciate you being with us today. As part of our Illuminate the Rock series, we're doing, and in our literacy effort, we are giving books to each of our speakers. And at the end of the year, we're going to give a selection of these books by Little Rock Connected authors to all our area elementary schools and resource centers. And at the end of the year, it'll list all our speakers, and both of you will be included in that. But Steve, thank you so much for being a part of this today. We'll do a photo after. Next week, U.S. Congressman French Hill with a special holiday program on the proposed VA Fisher House Veterans Home for Arkansas. If you can, bring a gift, and we'll be back with you on more about that. We appreciate all of you for joining us today. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.